So all I did is just put some plastic around it, and then I got the idea the other day of tying these pieces of wood that I painted black on the back side so that they'll attract heat, right? Because this is going to be the side against the house. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and I'm out here in the garden, my herb garden, doing one of my favorite things, messing around. So I've got some rosemary plants here, and rosemary are a zone 8 perennial, and I live in zone 6. So zone 8, I think that's just where the winter gets as cold as minus 12 Celsius. And of course my winter can get to minus 20 Celsius, maybe minus 25 at the worst. I don't know what the record is here, but anyway, that's general parameters. Rosemary is a plant that for many people where I live, it's annual. They treat it like an annual. But it's a perennial, wants to be a perennial, it just needs to live somewhere warmer. Or you can trick it into thinking it's somewhere warmer. And there's, a couple ways to do that. The most common way is to grow it in a pot. And every fall you take the pots inside, and then every spring you bring the pots back outside. That option really doesn't work for me because I haven't got a good place to put it indoors. There's no real place I could put it where we get a bit of sun over the course of the winter. The only window that gets any kind of sun during the winter is in my dining room, which is not going to really work for Mrs. Maritime Gardening. And it would just be a bit much having all this stuff there. So I'm inclined to have them stay in the garden over the winter, which means you have to make the garden warm enough for them. And there's a number of arguments for using that approach, because that way you're just getting a more and more elaborate. I mean, most plants, they want to grow in the ground. They don't want to grow in pots. I mean, you can grow plants in pots, but that's just like saying an animal can live in a zoo. Yeah, an animal can live in a zoo, but it wants to be in the forest, right? Its natural habitat. Well, the plant's natural habitat is in the ground, outdoors, right? That's where a plant wants to be. It'll be the happiest in that situation, and it'll grow the best. So by having the roots in the ground every year after year, I get a bigger and mature plant. That's the general idea. So the trick is making that space such that the plant can survive. So these plants already have one thing going for them, because this is a south-facing wall. South is that way, so the sun's on it all winter. So I got a sunny spot. I just need a way to create a little microclimate here so that the plants can, just get that little bit of edge where they don't get too cold. So I'm going to do a couple things here, and I'm going to share with you what I'm doing, and I think this will work. So let me show you. First thing I've done is I put 2 bricks here, and I painted them black. Okay, so it's black, it'll absorb the heat from the sun. They'll gather a little bit of heat from themselves from day to day. That'll help. Now the other thing is to create a little microclimate. Let me show you what I got here. All right, so what I got here is this thing I found in somebody's trash. I think it was like some sort of, it had a bottom, it had 4 sides to it. And I think it was like for, putting a dog in overnight, like these things, these little cages people put their dogs in indoors. So it had the nice, basically it's a little cold frame, right? Or a little dome. So all I did is just put some plastic around it. And then I got the idea the other day of tying these pieces of wood that I painted black on the back side so that they'll, attract heat, right? Because this is going to be the side against the house. It's not getting any sun from that side. The sun will be coming through, shining on these, and these will be absorbing the heat, right? So I'm just going to tie those on using, some rope. It doesn't have to be anything too fancy. Just I think the old nail knot is all that's required here. I don't know if you know the nail knot, but the idea, right, put that through there. I just fish that through here. I mean, I should have done all this before I assembled it, but a lot of things I do, I sort of, it's just sort of like a a process, I guess would be the best way, most polite way I could put it. It's a process of just, you know, playing around. So with a nail knot, you take a piece of string, you got your tag end here. You just make one knot like that, so it's like a slip knot. Then you put a second knot right there. I'll show this close up. I've done videos on this, and then you just sort of, it's a process of cranking it tight. You get quite tight. And cut that little end off there. All right, let me bring the camera in a little bit closer and show you that again. It's called a nail knot because it, oh, boy, that's so tight I can barely even lift it now. Holy smokes. It's called a nail knot because it's so tight it behaves like a nail. All right, so is the camera on this good? All right, so you got your tag end, the one you're going to pull on. The other one, you loop that around. Just make a regular overhand knot, like the first knot when you tie your shoes. And then in that little piece, you just put another overhand knot. It's the simplest knot ever. I mean, if this was all, you know, I could just screw these on or nail these on too, but, you know, basically, because this is a wire mesh, it just makes sense to tie these on. It's the easiest. Just give that a couple cranks. Yeah, that's tight as heck. All right, that's all we need. So that's on there. It's not going anywhere. It's tight as can be. Using the nail knot. Let me just do the other one here. I'll just speed the camera up for this little bit. Maybe I'll tie it one more time just for people that really want to see that knot. It's just such a handy knot. Some people call it the Canadian nail knot, like the, you know, outdoorsy survivalist types. I think that's the most common term for it. Let me get these two strings through here. One. Again, I'm just using knots and string here because it just seems to be the easiest way to solve the problem in this situation. Put that there like that. Okay, let's see. Can you see what I'm doing there? Yeah, okay. So, put this through. Okay. We make a simple knot. Right, so right now it's like a slip knot. And then in that tag end, you add one more knot. Right, so the knot here, and there's a knot right here. Okay, and as you tighten it, those two knots pull together. Yeah, and they become very, very, very tight. Give 'em a knife. You can leave that hanging, or, you know, cut it off, whatever you want. I'll just leave it hanging, doesn't matter. All right, one more time, once more with feeling. Right, so this goes through. We make a knot. Hopefully I've done this enough times and you've cut it from enough angles, and hopefully my hands aren't in the way. I didn't leave myself enough real estate there. Let me try that again. All right, let's try that again now. So it's going around here. We're gonna make it, oh, almost lost it there. Okay, we made one knot, and we're just going to tie some people call that a stopper knot. Anyway, it's just a simple overhand knot, a second overhand knot there. Right, like that. Now we got this tag end, right? So it's basically a slip knot with another knot behind it. And you just pull on it, and it's tight. So these two knots are crazy tight, right? Crazy tight. All right, so now I'll show you how I'm going to position this. Okay, so we got those two pieces of black wood against the house, right? So the sun will come in through this. I mean, this plastic looks a bit opaque, but I think it'll be fine. Clear plastic would be better, but this is what I had lying around, right? So I got this here. I got those two bricks there that are painted black. On the back side, I've got those two pieces of black wood. Okay? So that should gather heat. And then, I mean, it's very possible this snow will melt, but every time I'm out here shoveling the driveway or whatever, I'll make sure there's a bit of snow. I mean, the snow periodically melts here in Nova Scotia, which is a problem, but anyway, I'll make sure there's a good amount of snow, because you remember snow's an insulator, right? You can make an igloo of snow. With one candle burning inside that igloo, you can keep yourself alive in the freezing cold north, right? So we just put a layer of snow all the way around that. Not in the front, but in the sides, right? Insulate. We want the front relatively, clear, because that's where the sun's energy is coming that way, right? So we want the light getting through there. So even without that black stuff, this thing has been gathering heat. It's a relatively sunny day today. So when I pulled this off to make this video, I've had this on for a couple weeks now. When I pulled this off to make the video, there was heat underneath here. So it's already doing its work, even though it's not that clear, because this is just some plastic I had kicking around, some odds and ends, right? There's much better, much more sophisticated ways to do this. But, affecting this little microclimate probably, blew about 15 minutes of my time. All I did was fish something out of somebody's garbage and tape some plastic onto it. It should be good enough to last the winter. And I'm just literally using the snow as part of that system. It doesn't have to be sophisticated. I find this, lots of people grow their rosemary in pots and bring them out every year and all that sort of stuff. This takes minutes, and I don't have to do anything here now for the rest of the winter. In April, I'll take this off, right? And then next December, I'll put it back on. So that's pretty simple, right? So anyway, there's one more video showing sort of kooky ways that I do things here in my garden. All the perennial, this is an herb garden here, they're all perennial herbs, and they're all hardy for my zone. Probably most of them are hardy to zone 4. But this one, which I love rosemary. I love it with meat, basically, with red meat, for things like shish kebab and stuff like that. You take the rosemary, dry it, put it in a coffee grinder, and make it into almost like a powder, and you sprinkle it over meat with salt and pepper. Let it sort of set like that for a few hours, and then you barbecue it. It's delicious. I also like putting that exact same seasoning on parsnips. You put that on the parsnips, a little bit of oil, and cut them up and roast them in the oven. Heavenly, right? So, I love rosemary, and I hate the notion of having to buy it every year. And I can't stand the idea of having it grow in a pot and having to take the pots in and out every year. That bothers me too. I want it in the ground where it wants to be. I want happy plants. So now the plant thinks it's in, Washington or some place south of Canada, some nicer, warmer place that's a little more temperate, Tennessee or something like that, right? So hopefully I'll have nice big rosemary plants next year. So I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. And until next time, get out there, get at it. Have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.